Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stephen Breach coming to you here with the Eric Bischoff sit-down interview, which was supposed to hype up the Monday Night War Know Your Role Volume 2 set, which is going to be coming out tomorrow. This was your first look into the set. I will honestly say I've watched a lot of the first looks that are sort of like commercials for the WWE Network, for the WWE DVDs that are coming out, and this one honestly gave away the least, hyping up the set. I think that honestly, when you looked at the volume 1, they had like a 10-minute sit down, which was just, I believe, Renee Young, Triple H, and Sting sitting down in a room that they built the set for, talking about different things that happened during the Monday Night War. When they did the Click one, I believe they showed like the first 15 minutes, maybe even longer. I said with the Click DVD was that basically if you watched the things that were on the WWE Network that week when they did Click Week, where they did the first look, where they showed you the first 15 minutes of the documentary, the second night was following Scott Hall around at WrestleMania 30. Wednesday, I believe, was the top matches of the Click, and they showed like 3 of the best matches that they were involved in. They showed a Kevin Nash documentary, and then they showed a like a behind the scenes 10-minute 20-minute conversation between the Click, just talking and hanging out during the Hall of Fame ceremony when Scott Hall was going to be inducted. That you basically saw the Click DVD for free. You didn't need to go out and buy that set, but maybe WWE Network has listened to the people, thinking that it's non-needed to go out and buy the DVDs when they come out because the previews give so much away. But with the WWE Network, they were hyping up the fact that Eric Bischoff was going to be sitting down for a no-nonsense interview that was going to be shown on after the WWE Network, after the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast, and that was supposed to be the commercial for you to go out and buy the set. You know, the DVD might have a really good sit-down with Eric Bischoff, but we really only got a few minutes of Eric on the WWE Network tonight. They highlighted, I believe, 2 episodes of the WWE Network's very own Monday Night War, which is the set that they're trying to get you to buy. No, yeah, it was 2. It was Divas Gone Wild, where they highlighted the fact where Medusa threw the WWE Women's Championship into the garbage. A lot of the people thought that this was the start of the war between them. You know, a very, big thing for a women's wrestler to bring in another company's championship and throw it in the trash. Who knows? Medusa stayed with WCW till I think its dying day. You know, she might not have had a huge role in 2001 WCW, but if you think about like the 2000 World Heavyweight Championship tournament, even though Eric Bischoff wasn't around, WCW is very loyal to Medusa, probably because of the fact that, she took this step that really put WCW on the map. This was the first shot of the war, besides for Luger coming over on the debut episode of Nitro. It was either that or the huge cans that she had at the time, but that was sort of looked at as the start of the war. A lot of the people in the company were really surprised. There was no way in the world they would have took that kind of a gamble, because if WCW would have got tired of Medusa somewhere along the way, or just not having a women's division, at all, they could have fired her. And that Vince wasn't going to bring her back because he trashed her company. And Eric talked about the fact that, that was one of the first times that he realized the things that he would do in Nitro would have a long-lasting effect, not only in WCW, but in WWE. And, Vince McMahon basically took the Women's Championship off the market until, I believe, 1996, maybe even 1998 is when they brought it back with Jackie and Sable, and then Sable, won the Women's Championship, and that was sort of how it just started to get rolling again. And it really wasn't a big featured belt in the company until, Trish and Lita started getting their hands on it later in the 90s, but Vince basically took it off the market. They talked about the WCW versus ECW war. So I guess they talked about 3 episodes in there where, Paul Heyman was very, frequently saying that WCW was poaching talent from ECW, that Eric Bischoff had an open checkbook from Ted Turner to sign whoever he needed to sign. So he would watch the ECW program, see guys like Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, and just start picking these guys and bringing them off. Paul Heyman said, I apologize, Eric Bischoff, who in the interview said that he respects Paul, so he was trying to pick the words that he used very generously. He didn't want to say anything bad about him. He doesn't want any a bad rub. He's very glad to be back inside the WWE family. He sang his theme song at the beginning of the show. He talked about, it's the first time he's been on camera in WWE, and he really did miss it. On the WWE network, he's gone and really put over it. Even when he was involved with TNA and the network was launching, he was saying how good this is for the business and how great it is to go back and watch the good old days. But Bischoff talked about working with Heyman back in the AWA days and never really fully trusting Paul. He always felt that Paul Heyman was a little bit slippery, even when they were in WCW and they were doing, on-air commentating and things like that he would go into business for himself. And that he actually says that the reason why so many of the ECW guys were coming in is because they all were New Japan talents. And Eric Bischoff had a open sort of talent initiative between New Japan, and it was actually the booker of New Japan at the time saying that they use Malenko, use Guerrero, use Jericho, and that's how they got brought into WCW. It wasn't because of ECW. Bischoff claims that he never watched ECW when WCW was in business. The most that he's ever watched ECW was getting ready to do the sit-down interview with the WWE Network because he wanted to have a valid argument behind what was going on between Paul and him, and the things Paul said from him. From here, we go on to a good one, Mistakes in the Battlefield, which was an episode that was really about Eric Bischoff, him, coming into power in WCW, and building the NWO, never really having anything for the NWO to fight against. Eric Bischoff being removed from power, being brought back into power, and they basically say that Eric Bischoff had two ways of building that company. And one was signing everyone and becoming friends with all of the talent that were there. A lot of people said that he was too close to the talent that was on top, whether if that was Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, DDP, because with a friendship to Hulk Hogan or Kevin Nash, these guys are going to have an open ear of Eric Bischoff at all the time, and these guys are only going to have ideas that are for Hulk Hogan or for Kevin Nash, and that's probably one of the reasons that the NWO got as big as it did, never really did any jobs, and never really put anybody over. Even when Hulk Hogan put over Goldberg, one of the last big fireworks that went off inside of WCW, it was with the backhanded Hulk Hogan was going to be the guy who beat Goldberg and got the championship back, and they were going to build towards having a big pay-per-view, which would be a bigger payday for Hulk Hogan in the long run. They talked about the feud between Ric Flair and Eric Bischoff, where Bischoff looked at the WCW roster at the time, basically saying that only Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper had drawn a dime in the business, and that Flair was just mid-card talent. Flair talks about how if there was no Ric Flair, nobody would have been able to get over Randy Savage, nobody would have been able to get over Hulk Hogan, and the thanks he got was that once the NWO started rolling, Flair started getting moved down the card, and brings up the fact that he was wrestling like Conan in the third match of the night, and just didn't seem like he was giving the dues that he should have done, because WCW wouldn't even have been the company that it was if it wasn't for everything that Ric Flair had done throughout the NWA days, getting it to the point where once Eric Bischoff had a company to run, they would be able to go live on TNT and be able to go up against the WWF. In the last dying days, Eric Bischoff was actually trying to gather money together to buy WCW. He really thought that there was some money left to be made in this company. I don't know if that's because of how much time he put into building it, and he was the last guy to really run it. But this guy saw the numbers more than anybody, got some money together with a group named Fusion Media, and they were going to buy the company. And at the last minute, they were looking for a 10-year agreement that their show would be shown on TBS, but Jamie Kellner stepped up and said that they were no longer going to be known as the Wrestling Network, and they did not want any wrestling on TBS or TNT, which made WCW worthless without a TV deal. Bischoff, fought the last day trying to find a network for WCW to appear on, but in the end, it was Vince McMahon buying WCW and, acquiring, some of the contracts, and then acquiring the rings, acquiring, of course, the, tape library, which is worth more than anything else along the way. The naming rights to things like the NWO and the pay-per-views, and, for little to no money that Vince paid for it, I'm sure he's made the money back with the WWE Network and DVDs and other things along the way. He didn't really have to pay all that much for it, but they played that damn They had Eric Bischoff sitting on a couch, and they had an open invitation to ask him anything they wanted to. They hyped up the fact that this was going to be a tell-all interview, and it ended up just being little clips of the interview. Will make you go buy the thing. I understand that, but what I don't understand, they're still playing that damn 2003 Eric Bischoff interview with they're setting up the Monday Night Raw ring and the Monday Night Raw set in the background. That thing has been played to death, whether if it's on the NWO DVD, the Monday Night War DVD, any DVD that had anything to do with WCW. I understand that, he's been gone from the company for a long time and you didn't have access to interview the guy, but this is supposed to be a sit-down, tell-all interview, and you're showing the same damn interviews from 2003 again. Make him retell the story, sitting there on the couch in his cowboy boots. It was fun. It was good. It makes me want to buy the DVD, so they got their network across. It's a commercial, basically, to go out and buy this thing. I'm not going to buy it tomorrow. WWE Network has the Monday Night War episodes still up on there. If I really wanted to watch them, I could watch them. I just want that bonus feature, and that's really what I'm paying for.